All right, well, it is 11 and I want to be cognizant of everyone's time so we can get started. This is Kristen with CADIC and the Visitors Bureau. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I know we had some more registered, so as people join in, we'll keep going through this. But this was a response from our industry calls that we had a couple weeks ago that a lot of you participated in, and we certainly appreciate your feedback. And a lot of what we heard is that you wanted some more information on legislative updates and really just to be able to continue to ask about resources and things that are available. So we set up this call today with the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, and we certainly appreciate them offering to do this for us. So we have their staff on. They'll go through a presentation, but most of this will be question and answers, just to be able to offer you guys that opportunity. So as I mentioned, if you could leave yourself muted so we can minimize noise, and we'll be using the chat feature for questions. So please feel free to put anything there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa Bova. She is the Vice President of Government Affairs for PRLA.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. As Kristen said, I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs at PRLA. Basically, the point person in-house for everything government recovery issue related as it pertains to this crisis. So thank you for having me. I'm going to go through, if you've done my weekly webinars, I do a weekly webinar and I call it my brain dump, where I tell everybody this is everything we know and this is what we don't know. And as soon as we know, we'll tell you. And this is going to be a slightly lesser version of that today. So for those of you that are not familiar, PRLA is the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. We are the state trade association for restaurants, hotels, tourism attractions, destination marketing organizations. If you are hospitality or tourism related, we are the association for you. We are a trade organization. I think that the most important thing that we do is government affairs, but that might be because I'm a little biased. But really our existence is to make your lives easier and to let you run your business, answer questions you need to get through it, and provide financial resources and assistance for people that are in our industry. That's kind of what we did up until about March 16th, which is when all of our lives started unraveling and we started to experience the effects of COVID for all of us in our operations. And for many of us, we've been shut down since that time. So in response to that, PRLA kind of changed our process and really became an association and continue to be an association that's open to everyone, whether you're a member or not. We are all in this together. We're going to come through on the other side of this together. You can go back to the last slide, Eric. You're getting a little jumpy on me. But it has really kind of changed how we operate. So since March, we have been opening up all of our daily updates, all of our benefits for the most part to non-members. That has been since the middle of March. Since then, we have changed our due structure. We have not been billing anybody since March. We would love for that to go on forever, but we have recognized the fact that our industry has changed, and like I said, are changing our due structure and model to reflect that. So more information will be forthcoming, and we certainly hope that as I go through this, if you are not involved in the PRLA, that this at least gets you interested to learn a little bit more about what we do and how we are going to change and assist in helping you as we get through this crisis. And I promise we are going to get through this crisis. So let's go to the next slide. This is going to be the sad part, but I'm going to do my best to get us out on the other side. This is our industry before COVID hit. We were, keyword is were, the second largest industry in Pennsylvania. We could argue that we were even bigger than agriculture at the time. We employed over 500,000 people in the restaurant industry alone. We had 121,000 people in the hotel industry. We were scheduled for record growth in our industry for this year. And we were going gangbusters. And we were really, really thriving as an industry. And then COVID hit. And we'll go to the next slide. And that's when things we just got decimated. And I would like to hear an industry that is more decimated than hospitality and tourism as it relates to this crisis. Everybody's been hurt, everybody's been hit, small businesses especially. hospitality specifically just got the brunt of it. For our restaurants, 96% have laid off their employees. About over 80% of our employees are collecting unemployment. We have not been able to bring them back. We've been able to bring some, but as you are all especially aware, we're not allowed to operate at full capacity. So many of our employees are still on unemployment. We've had an 82% decline in sales. 50% are trying to do takeout. And of those doing takeout, if they're making 30% of what they did before, they're probably doing pretty well in takeout. With that being said, 30% doesn't pay the bills, doesn't pay the rent. Our hotels equally as wrecked in all of this. 8 in 10 hotel rooms are empty. Occupancy is worse than the Great Recession, and 70% of hotel employees were laid off as part of the crisis. So that's just how we were hit. We're starting, as I said, to see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to take a lot more to get us through on the other side. So let's get into some of the meat of what you're looking to hear from me. State update, legislation. The House and Senate are in session. They have been in session. We're one of the few legislative bodies that has been in session over the course of the crisis and regularly in session. Some of it is politics, maybe more than a little bit of it is politics, but it certainly benefited us in terms of trying to get some recovery efforts through. So let me talk a little bit about what's going on and what you can expect. Today, starting this week, today especially, the legislature is passing a state budget. It is not a full year state budget, it's just for 5 months. It's what we're calling a flat fund. So they're taking everything that was spent last year, not increasing or changing any of the numbers, and flat funding everything for 5 months. To that end, education is going to be flat funded, but that will be flat funded for a full year. And the legislature is passing that, going through the process of passing that today. To give you all a heads up, a 5-month budget is unprecedented in Pennsylvania, and it also will lead us to a somewhat scary time in November. And it will lead us to something that we call sunny die as it pertains to session. And I'll give you a little, for those of you who've heard me talk before, I'm going to be honest and tell you like it is. So sunny die is essentially held after the election, before anybody who was elected in the election is sworn in. So it's basically when all kinds of things happen, because you, one, have all the legislators who announced they're not running for re-election and are done, they're voting. All the people who might have lost their re-election, they're voting. And then the rest of the legislature is about as far away from their next re-election as they can be. So sunny die is when we're going to see those scary, like, tax increases and legalizing marijuana and all of those things that are going to be discussed in an effort to try and balance the budget. So we're going to skate through now, but November is really going to be an important time for our industry, and a time that we're really going to need to be active and diligent in terms of making sure that efforts to balance the budget don't come on the backs of our community, businesses, hospitality, tourism. So that's being done right now. Now, over the past few weeks, you have probably been seeing what we call the reopening legislation. And it's really just been the Republican legislative response to the governor's actions and their frustration because of that. You know, shutting down businesses that in other states were allowed to operate. Realtors are a great example. Construction is an example. Saying that businesses can't reopen in the yellow phase that probably should be allowed to reopen in the yellow stage. Hair salons, nail salons, restaurants, all of those. So the reopening legislation is really what the legislature, the House and Senate, is doing, sending bills to the governor. The governor vetoes them, but it's really kind of a response from them to try and express their frustration. With that has come legislation that requires him to put an advisory committee together. There is legislation now that would take away his authority to declare a state of emergency. All well and good efforts on their part, but when you have a Democratic governor and you're not veto proof, it's really an effort in trying to make a point, then it will change. But we have seen over the past few weeks the governor move, and we're seeing things move a little bit more quickly in terms of reopening. And I'll speak a little bit, of course, to that now and the announcement yesterday that impacts our industry. CARES Act, there is language that was put into an appropriations bill today that creates block grants for different counties. It's to the tune of, I believe, $625 million, and part of that will be recovery grants for small businesses with less than 100 employees. The details need to be ironed out. First, eligible will be those who weren't able to take advantage of the P3 and the EIDL. It's not specific to those businesses, but we are starting to see that CARES Act money trickle down to our local communities. And there's various different uses of how the counties can use those revenues. So that was put into a bill today. The money has to be given to the counties by July 15th, hopefully sooner than that. But that is another item that literally just got loaded into an appropriations bill about 20 minutes ago. For my restaurants, I'll go over this quickly. I did a deep dive in my webinar before. Not a cure-all. We get that it's not a cure-all. But beginning last week, you were able to sell cocktails to go. This is only for those restaurants or hotel licensees that have lost 25% of their business due to COVID. So pretty much all of you. Grocery stores would not be eligible because if you have gone to the grocery store in the last 2 months, we certainly know they have not been losing business. This legislation allows you to sell, like I said, cocktails to go. You can sell them at the curb. They have to be in a sealed container between 4 ounces and 64 ounces. Yes, a sealed container can be a cap with a straw hole as long as you put tape over the hole for the straw. And there's other parameters that come with all of this, but it is an opportunity that will allow restaurants just to make a little bit extra and just be able to do a little bit more. So please, if you haven't taken advantage of that and you have a license, we encourage you to at least look at it, because I do know that we've been hearing from some of our members, and like I said, it's not going to make or break, but it helps. So that legislation went into effect last week. It was effective immediately. And we've really been seeing a lot of different entities take advantage of it. That's kind of a broad state legislative overview. I will answer questions on federal, but I don't have it in here because I know we only have so much time through everything today. So let's kind of get to the reason all of you are on the call today, and that would be reopening. Okay, so yellow. You are in yellow. You're doing better than us in Dauphin County, where we will be yellow tomorrow. Generally, yellow is if you are not a business that is banned from operating, and I mentioned those before. Those are nail salons, hair salons, restaurants, all of those kind of personal service massage parlors. You are allowed to open in yellow. There are very specific business guidance that you need to follow in yellow and even in green. So make sure if you are open at this time that you're following those. I do have some links on here of what yellow means generally, what green means generally. There is an FAQ document from the governor's office that really talks about some specific questions that people have been having during the reopening. So I've had links to both of those on there. And yellow, like I said, is you can start operating. If you're in retail, it has to be controlled. You have to ensure social distancing. You have to check all of those boxes. But yellow, until yesterday, included a ban for restaurants and hotels to have any type of on-premise dining or consumption. Green, we have some counties going to green. And I think everybody has learned this now. I think a lot of people thought that once they hit green, we're back to normal. The switch has been flipped. Everything's normal again. We're going to operate like we were before. That is not what green is going to mean. There are still a number of parameters that are required when a county hits green, especially on businesses, especially on hospitality and tourism. So please, when you hit green, which Cumberland, we can't predict. I am not in the governor's head. I would probably go crazy because I can't imagine how some of these decisions are being made. But we're hearing on Friday what's going to go to green the next week. And I would be surprised if you guys flip to green next week. But right now we're in yellow. And let's get into kind of what the food service parameters are. And I promise, I know the number one question from 90% of you on this call is catering and events. And I'm going to touch upon that today to the best of my ability. But let's talk a little bit about the announcement that the governor came out with yesterday. And that's relating specifically to hospitality and restaurants. Beginning next Friday, you are allowed to have outdoor dining. at your restaurant, at your hotel. You are allowed to seat people outside. You need to do two things. If you have a deck, you have to be at 50% of occupancy of what your occupancy is for your deck, or you need to make sure that you're doing the social distancing that's needed between tables, between guests. As a helpful tool, the social distancing is 6 feet between individuals. It's not going to be 6 feet from table to table. So that doesn't give you a lot of extra space to operate within, but it is between individual to individual. For yellow, like I said, you can seat people outside. That's the only thing you are allowed to do in yellow. No inside seating. There's no bar seating. If you have a bar outside, you cannot sit people at the bar in yellow. To that end, we will have an announcement. It should be ready by next Wednesday. So please stay tuned to our daily updates, or I know that the Tourism Bureau will get this information out to you. We recognize that a lot of you don't have a lot of outdoor space, and we don't know how long we're going to be in yellow. And even when we hit green, which I'll touch upon in a minute, you're only going to be at 50% occupancy. So we've been working with the LCB to extend your licensed premise. So a lot of you have your license out to the end of your deck, or if you have outdoor patio seating or sidewalk seating, that's where your license ends. We are working with the LCB for an automatic approval of that extension. So they're going to come up with a streamlined application. What would happen is you would just submit, this is my business, this is my LID, this is where I'm extending. I want to use my parking lot for seating. I'm putting a canopy in the parking lot to seat more people. You will be automatically approved. For those of you who've extended the premise before, you're probably very familiar with the fact that you have to wait 30 to 60 days because you have to put up a posting. You still need to put up that placard, but you don't have to wait. So the placard is more of a sign that you got permission to do it, but you will be automatically approved when you submit it. To that end, if you are looking in your area, in your municipality, to basically maybe expand into municipal space, you want to go into street parking spaces, or you want to go onto the sidewalk that the municipality controls. That's going to require an extra step of municipal approval. We are working out the details of that, but we are hoping to make it as simple as Lemoyne's probably not the greatest example. You have one liquor license in Lemoyne, but just as an example, Lemoyne sends a letter to the LCB saying we've granted permission for our licensees to extend their premise, or for Mechanicsburg Borough, we have granted permission for them to extend onto our property. So those are options that are going to allow you to extend that outdoor seating. Further in the yellow stage, because there are some additional things. No buffets, not that you would set up a buffet outside, especially with all of the bugs, but you cannot do any buffets or salad bars. You need to do individual condiments. You can't put out condiments that would be reused. You cannot use reusable menus. So if you have menus that you would wipe down in yellow outdoor, you have to either use paper menus that you can throw away in between, or if you're using digital menus, those need to be sanitized, but you cannot use regular menus for outdoor seating. You also cannot refill food and beverage containers or implements brought in by customers. When I think of that, I'm really thinking the growlers. And I know some people have been refilling growlers, but they have said that you cannot refill. Somebody brings in their own, refillable giant mug, or you have a mug club or something like that. Those would not be permitted in yellow for outdoor dining. Those are your general yellow parameters. Now, here's hoping sooner than later, you're going to hit green. And also, let me speak to yellow for my caterers, and then I'm going to try and make it a little better. 25 people is where we are at. So if you are if you have a catering facility and you have outdoor seating, because you cannot do indoor seating, you could sit 25 people or less in that space, and you need to ensure the social distancing is followed. That is all you are allowed to do. So your weddings, anything like that would be more than 25 people, as long as you are in yellow, that is not going to be permitted in yellow. So we're still stuck in yellow. Green, I'm gonna get into, and then I'll touch upon I'll get into catering into that as well as to what we know and what we're trying to get more information on. So green, you are allowed indoor seating for restaurants and hotels, finally at 50% capacity, also ensuring social distancing. So you might not hit 50% just due to the fact of the social distancing that you will need to do between people and individuals in their individual tables. So recognize that, but know that if you get super creative, you still can't go off higher than that 50% requirement. I will not get into all of the super detailed information. Like I said, there is a link on here and I will be happy to answer any questions, but there's basically two levels of compliance here. There's one of, these are things you have to do. If you're going to be doing indoor or outdoor dining to any extent, here's everything that you need to do. That includes your guests need to wear masks until they sit at their table. Then they can remove their masks. Your employees need to wear masks at all times, unless they have a health condition or their job does not enable them to wear masks. That is in yellow and that is in green. You cannot have, if you have playgrounds or dance floors or game areas, those are not allowed to be permitted in yellow or green. Those do need to remain closed. You need to ensure that you are sanitizing bathrooms, host stands, anything that's frequently touched, all of the things that you have probably already been thinking about. Have hand sanitizer readily available to your employees. And all of that, of course, is ensuring the social distancing as much as possible. So if you have a bathroom and you would want to do markers to ensure where people can stand if they're waiting for the bathrooms, yes, they can use the bathroom in yellow. That has to be made available to them, but you also need to ensure that social distancing for your guests in yellow. Then on top of that, there are other things that the administration is essentially saying, you should really think about doing these things. It's not required, but to ensure the safety of your guests, there are a list of things that you will want to consider. Some of the recommendations are doing a health check of your employees when they come in. Don't seat more than 10 people at a table. Really start using technology when people are ordering and paying as opposed to the kind of human interaction that you've been used to. And touchless everything as much as you are able to. And these are things that you need to consider, because I will tell you this, we have from the government and the CDC, this is what you have to do. Then there are going to be the things that you are going to have to do if you are a restaurant or hotel that are above and beyond those, because our guests need to feel welcome. They need to feel safe. They need to know that you are going above and beyond to welcome them back into a safe, sanitized environment. So it really is the easier part of the mandatory things. The harder part is going to be the extra things that you're going to need to do to make your guests feel comfortable and make them want to come out again. Let's talk about the biggest question I know for all of my meeting planners, caterers, and my friends in the hotel industry. Here's where we are, and we're working on getting further clarification on this. There's a few parameters. The most simple one is 250. No matter what you do, how you do it, you cannot have more than 250 people in any space. Indoor, outdoor, on the roof, I don't care where it is. In green, it's 250. So we did jump from 25 to 250. That is your ceiling, no matter how you look at it. Secondary to that is going to be your 50% occupancy. So if you have a ballroom that fits 300 people, you cannot put more than 150 people in that ballroom. So you have 250 maximum, 50% of the largest space that you have or whatever space you have. And then even within that space, you are going to need to ensure, if you're doing tables, or at least try to ensure social distancing. So those are kind of the 3 check marks that we're getting from the administration in terms of operations. That, to be honest, I thought we were going to I thought it was going to be worse. It's certainly not ideal, but that's really where we're going to be in green until we get more guidance from the administration. To that end, for large events, for our big tourism attractions, for our fairs, all of that is not permitted in green right now. So anything, like I said, that would have more than 250 people on a property, is not going to be permitted in green. And that's where we are, and that's what we know. So there is going to be some allowance for reopening. In that, I'm sure for many of you, it's not going to be exactly what you're looking for. And like I said, we are working with the administration on getting additional clarifying pieces of that. We've submitted catering suggestions to the administration to the point of, if we have a list of everybody that's there, can we avoid kind of the social distancing at tables if it's for a private event? So those are the types of things that we're putting out there. I will say for buffets are allowed in green. It is suggested that you have one of your servers serve it, but it is allowed in green. Buffets are not allowed in yellow, for those of you that they probably do that for weddings or other items. So that's general parameters, and I know I will probably get some detailed questions, so I'll try not to get into much more detail. I will say we're getting there, and I know we're getting there slowly, and I know that everybody is frustrated. But I will also urge you that if you're thinking these rules are silly or stupid or dumb, which they could be all three, if you don't follow them, even if your local government doesn't enforce this, the state is. And we've seen this in the papers of people getting their liquor licenses pulled, people getting their operating privileges pulled. So please be careful if you decide you're frustrated and you're going to go down that path, because it really is not a path that we can protect you from. The courts have unilaterally said that the governor has control here. So please be careful in terms of frustration and how you respond to that. I know in your county, you're getting there. You're going to get there faster than others. So please get creative with the outdoor space, get creative in how you operate things, but please try and follow the guidance, and we'll answer any questions to that end all along the way. So let me go over a few resources. I think that's the next slide. And then I will answer all of the questions. So we have a few things. The Pennsylvania Restaurant and Hotel Promise, and this is at PRLA.org/welcome back. We basically put together a piece that you can print out from our website, and we're working actually with DCED to create a state program as well. That is basically a promise to your customers saying, we have done these things to ensure your safety. Like I said, we have to try a little bit more to ensure safety. This is what we've done, and there's a sign on the door that lets the customers know that you've done that. And we have this for restaurants, and we have this for hotels. So we urge you to take a look at that. It's basically an honor system. When you print out this promise, it's a commitment to your staff, it's a commitment to your customers that you're going to do these things to ensure their safety in your business. So that is a step in terms of comfort for people on your property. Other educational resources that we have, every Wednesday at 11 a.m., I do what, like I mentioned earlier, I call my brain dump, where I tell everybody everything that I know over the past week. And there's plenty of snark in there as well. We do educational webinars as well. We have everything from federal laws that took effect. We have one next week on Families First, because I know many of you were shut down when Families First passed. But now you're reopening and you are required to offer paid leave to your employees. So we have a webinar on that. We have webinars on operations, how you can sanitize your operations, what you should be thinking about reopening. We have webinars on just mental health generally. I feel like we all need that. So regularly on PRLA's website, which I know we have at the end, PRLA.org/coronavirus, is just a list of webinars. And further, during this time, Serve Safe, which is our partner program with the National Restaurant Association that provides food safety training, they're offering discounts and some free training as well, just to help people kind of stay on point as we work through reopening. And they also have great resources as it pertains to sanitizing and requirements and things that you will want to think about as it pertains to reopening. Next slide. Other things I do want to do a plug here. Yingling is doing a super awesome and cool auction for and I'll get to HARP. I think, actually, I don't think I have HARP here, but HARP is basically our hospitality recovery fund for all of our employees who are collecting unemployment by no choice of ours and no choice of theirs. The government said that we had to shut down, and so we did. It was the right thing to do, and we did it. But Yingling and Phillies all-star pitcher Aaron Nola are doing this Cheers PA. There's a link on here, and it is just such awesome auction items. Like, you can go in the box with Vic Yingling and watch a Phillies game. Aaron Nola will pop into your Zoom happy hour, and just all kinds of awesome things that you can put in for to win. And so it's basically for every $20, you get to pick something to put your name for, and that runs until June 19th. So that's a plug. All of that goes to HARP, like I said, and that provides grants to individuals who have been unemployed because of COVID. And if you have not yet put your restaurant on carryoutpa.com, please do so. We now have over 1,800 restaurants listed. I'm going to tell you this right now, even when we hit green, you're still going to be doing carryout. It's still going to be a base part of your operations. We're not going to be back to 100% capacity in the near future. We're going to need time to get there. So please, if you have not added your business to Carryout PA, do so. It is an awesome site, super easy for people to go on. We've been getting a lot of media on it, so people can go on, put in their address, and it shows them all of the restaurants and hotels in the area that are offering carryout, and whether it can be delivered, whether it's picked up, if they're offering cocktails to go, all of that is on there. So please list there if you have not. And also recognizing the requirement of PPE when you reopen. Heidi, who is on this call, and Eric, who is the master of moving PowerPoint slides, have just done an awesome job of sourcing and finding face masks and face shields and all of that from various different resources to make it easier for you to access all of that, all of what you need at a reasonable price. And we're going to continue to do these things. We are not in normal day-to-day operations. PRLA recognized that. We've changed our staffing model. We've changed our entire operational model to reflect how things have changed for you. So please, like I said, PRLA.org/coronavirus, or just PRLA.org. That's going to take you to everything that you need specific to hospitality and tourism in Pennsylvania. And I think that will take me to questions. If you are not getting our updates, please sign up on, like I said, I'll do it again, PRLA.org/coronavirus. It's a daily, just short email of like, this is what happened today, or this is what you need to know, or Congress is voting on a P3 fix, because they are today. You need to send a letter to your congressional delegation, and you can click this link and do it. So everything you need to know for the day, everything you need to act on is in that daily update that you get about between 5 and 5:30 every single day. And I know that I am getting a lot of questions, so I will start taking questions, and please type them into the chat box, and I will work through them as I get them. And I will be honest, I will tell you if I know the answer, or I might have to tell you we don't know because the governor hasn't decided yet. So I caveat that ahead of time. I think this is more of a comment. I live in Snyder County. He was going green, and yes, not a big change of yellow. I mean, depending on your business, if you're retail, not a huge change. They have said in green, masks everybody should be wearing masks. I think it's going to be more of a business decision in green. But generally, unless you are in the restaurant or hotel or the food service industry, not a huge change. Large venues still cannot operate in green. I don't know if we want to call it like a light green or like an amber, because we're going from yellow to green, but green on its face is not, like I said, a flip of a switch. Things are definitely different. How can PRLA assist our large events being allowed to operate in green? Is the governor's office considering how large outdoor events might be able to operate without losing the entire summer season? Yes, and we are continuing those conversations with them. John Longstreet has our president and CEO has another call with the governor's office to discuss that. We recognize that these events can be held safely, and we want them to be allowed. To that end, we are going to need to balance between what the governor wants and then what the CDC is recommending as well. Like I said, currently the governor is saying 250. That's where we are. Indoor, outdoor doesn't matter. But we are having that conversation of, if we have a large outdoor space, if we can ensure social distancing, that should be allowed. If you have a large convention center space and you can fit 500 people in there, you should be able to do that. Those are conversations that we're still having, but right now your number is 250, and that that's going to be $250. I would say for a few weeks until we can figure out how the numbers, whether they go up or down. If they continue to go down, we certainly have a leg to stand on, which is why diligence and being use it sanitizing and wearing your masks and all the things that Secretary Levine says every day are going to be really important to allow for those outdoor pieces. Can you please explain once again, for tables in green or yellow, can parties of 4 sit together, or does each individual need to be 6 feet apart? A party can sit together. So if you have 6 people in a party, they can all sit at the table. But from the end of that last person on the table, there has to be 6 feet between that person and the next table. They do not all need to be members of the same family, but they need to come in. Like I said, it would be a party that would be sitting together. That would be 4 people, 6 people, whatever the number is. They can be together, not socially distant at their table, but you need 6 feet between them and the other table that's sitting another group of people. And to that end, I will say bar seating is also going to be allowed in green, but a key part of that is going to be you cannot have more than 4 people sitting side by side at the bar, and then you need to use a divider between the end of that party and whoever's in the next party. So you will need some type of divider, plexiglass, something, if you're using your bar space and allowing people to sit at the bar. So that is going to be a requirement, not allowed in yellow, allowed in green. Are hotels only able to operate at 50% occupancy? Fun fact, the 50% never applied to hotels. 50% is related to people in a room, not hotel rooms in and of themselves. So the 50% occupancy are your ballrooms, your meeting rooms, all of that. It is not applicable to individual rooms within your hotel. 50% does not apply to that. So if you, God bless you if you can hit more than 50% occupancy in your hotel rooms, have at it. And that was actually the rule from red to yellow to green. So your actual rooms that you're renting out is not subject to the 50% rule. It's your rooms where you're congregating people or sitting banquet space and all of that. Oh, and Chrissy answered that. Well, there we go. I should have read ahead. Let's see. I would assume we can get the PowerPoint over. I don't see a problem with that, right, Eric or Heidi? Oh, Kristen answered that. Wow, this is great. You guys answer your own questions. Has there been any discussion of what's after green? Bright green, hopefully. The governor was actually asked that question specifically yesterday, and I don't want to make you frustrated, but he basically said, I don't know. We haven't thought past to that point yet of what it looks like. He has insinuated that this stage of green will not be a short-term stage of green, that it won't be like 2 weeks in yellow, then green, 2 weeks in green, and then we're bright green, or like I said, I don't know what's after green. He has hinted that green is going to be green until there's a vaccine. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I do think that we are going to need to be in green for longer than 2 weeks to make sure the numbers don't increase, to see what comes along after that. But I will say again, he made it very clear that they have not discussed what comes after green. So we don't know the answer to that. Can restaurants use outdoor spaces such as grass areas, parking lots, if they have enough actual parking that aren't typically used for dining to expand their outdoor space? So yes, and that's kind of what I talked about before. If it's on the restaurant property and you are selling alcohol, you would just tell the LCB, hey, I'm expanding, and that information will be available next week. So yes, and that's the purpose, and that's why they're going to approve this so quickly, so you can get creative in that space, expand your outdoor seating, see people to get creative with the social distancing. So it's on your property, it's going to be automatic approval beginning next week from the LCB, and we will get that information as soon as it's updated. Don't apply for an extension of premise right now. You're going to have to pay for it, and if you do it the other way, it's free. And 2, you're going to have to do it the hard way, which means you're going to have to wait 30 days before you can actually do it. So please don't submit to extend your premise until next week when the more streamlined process is available. So if you have property that you're on your property that you can use, that will be immediate. If you're going to go onto property that is part of the municipality, you would need the municipal approval for that. So that's something you just need to think about. And I can give it another, what's that I'm not sure what's that date. Next Wednesday, the goal for the LCB to get that application out would be, now they told me next Wednesday, which in LCB speak makes me think it's going to be Thursday. So it would be June 3rd or June 4th. We would have that application available for you to start doing outdoor dining on June 5th. Keep in mind, you cannot do outdoor dining yet. You cannot do it until next Friday on June 5th. So this is not an immediate thing. June 5th is when you can start seating outside. Until then, takeout and delivery for another 8 days. I think I can give it another minute or two, but you guys are efficient. And I will add, and I've said it a few times, there's so much information. We know it, and we know it's constantly changing. We will get you all of that as soon as we get it. I do know that our amusement parks, some of our larger venues have submitted plans to the governor to allow them to reopen. All of that is being looked at. Is it happening as quickly as we want it to? No, but it's happening. So please, like I said, if you're not getting our daily updates, please sign up for them. And if you are bored on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. and want to watch my weekly brain dump with the snark included, you're certainly welcome to do that as well. And all of that information, I know they can provide to you. Okay. Oh wait, sorry, Shreen, I missed that one. If not permitted in green, is the administration considering waivers for specific outdoor events that have a robust social distancing plan? They are, you saw what happened with the last round of waivers. It turned into a mess. So we do not expect waivers. We expect there to be parameters. So they might say you can have, ideally, would be an ideal situation, which is not allowed. The number is still 250. Ideally is if you can ensure social distancing, have at it. If it's 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and you can ensure that they're separated, then you're allowed to operate. That would be an ideal scenario. We're not there yet. I do not expect a waiver process again because of how badly that went when they tried to do waivers in yellow. But like I said, we have within our association alone, we have a large venue working group that has, I think, a call today to talk about plans that we can submit to the governor. We have a catering working group. We have a music venue working group. Heidi somehow manages to juggle all of them. So we inside of our organization have working groups to push all of these items. But right now, 250 is the number. And we are working to get that changed. But large events, for whatever reason, the governor is doubling down hard on that. And I know we've had some raceways that have tried to open and have since been shut down. So that's unfortunately where we are. But we hope to get more guidance and a move on that soon. Some local communities are looking to change ordinance to allow for outdoor retail sales, outdoor community gathering, outdoor dining. You have or available to assist municipalities with model ordinances. I'm sure we can find one. I don't know if you need an ordinance for that. I mean, you might, but we can look into that. But a lot of places aren't necessarily doing ordinances. They're just saying we're shutting down this street for a fair. We're going to turn it into kind of a social distancing exercise to a certain extent. But we can certainly look in to see. I know other places have done it. I've been on calls with Lancaster and Scranton and places in between that are talking about that. So I'm sure we can find something that would be helpful. Oh, thank you, Sherry. Okay, I think have we gotten to the end, Kristen?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks again, Melissa. We really appreciate it. And we obviously, to echo Shreen's comments, appreciate your organization. You guys have been sending out so much good information and really being the voice for our industry. So thank you for that.
We'll keep on fighting.
Yeah, and just to reiterate the question before, this has been recorded and we will be getting it out to all of you and the rest of our partners in the county. And please reach out to us with any questions you have or anything, any resources you think we can help with. We're here for you as well. But thank you, and we'll talk soon.